Welcome back, guys, to our podcast today. Here with me, so my name is Nicole, and I am from Book Lovaholic, and I have the amazing Ellie with me. Hey, Ellie from Ellie
Hello.
Books. It is awesome to have you guys here today. We're super excited to share with you all our theories, all our thoughts, and everything we love with the books that we are reading currently and looking forward to in the future. How are you today, Ellie?
I'm doing so great. I'm so excited for this session because there's a lot has happened and a lot, I feel like so many people are really finally finishing the book. And
Yes.
so the internet and Instagram are really, really taking off.
Yes.
And I'm just so excited to talk about the book, now that I've let it marinate, because the last time we talked, I think we had both recently read it. So we were really scattered. We were like, we have to
I
just
know.
vomit all of our ideas. And now I'm a little bit more
We've had
organized with
time
my
to
thoughts.
process, we've had time to
Yeah.
think about it. And oh my gosh, guys, so what has happened in the last 2 weeks? So 2 weeks ago,
So
we
much.
were just two little bookstagrammers talking about our crazy theories about Iron Flame. And then in 2 weeks, Ali went viral. Oh my gosh,
I
she
did.
went
I think
super
you can call
viral.
it viral. I
One
think you
minute
can call it viral.
I have to say though, that very first video reel that you did with like the Britney Spears, like
Yeah.
showing what my current reel threads look like, I was just like, this is so accurate. This is exactly what Instagram is giving me. All I'm getting is Iron Flame, but
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
also here for it. I love it.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't watched or if you're not following me on Instagram, or you just haven't seen this reel, I posted this reel that was my actual Instagram feed. I just recorded on my phone my actual Instagram Reels feed, and it was like every single reel was about Iron Flame. And it blew up. It got like 70,000 views or something like that, and 2,500 likes, which for me
Gosh.
at the time, at the time I had like maybe 400 Instagram followers, and now I'm almost at 2,500. So I have
Amazing.
crossed that 1,000 threshold. I've crossed that 2,000 threshold. It's so exciting, and the algorithm just like keeps picking up my reels.
I know.
Um,
Maybe that's
and
the
I'm just so
secret.
happy
You
about
spoke about the algorithm and it picked you up and it just went boom and it
it. Boom.
happened.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. And then I tried to keep up that momentum, and I posted another theory, and I thought, okay, maybe this one will get picked up, and it just keeps happening. Everything keeps getting picked up. So I'm
Amazing.
really
It's
excited.
amazing.
I
I'm trying to
have to
keep
say
up with
though,
you.
yeah, oh yeah, you will. I will say your reel about what it's like to have a teenage Andarna and showing your daughter just being a typical teenager just made me crack up so much, because I was like, this is so real. I don't have kids, but I remember what it was like to be a teenage girl. And it was just so funny.
You know what's so hard? I so wanted to create this reel about, because guys, for who doesn't know, I have my oldest is 13 years old and she is the most teenage 13-year-old you have ever had. She is moody. She is irritable. If I tell her anything, she disagrees with
So
me.
she's
So
Andarna,
I'm like,
amazing.
what a perfect Andana reel. But do you think she would cooperate? Do you think she would cooperate with me? No, no. I'm like, Ayla, can you just like say something just about mom, go away, you're so annoying. And she's just like, no, mum, no, I don't want to do that. So I ended up just having to grab her at random intervals and moments where she was being disagreeable with me, and I managed to film it. So it was very, very funny. But I think the biggest thing we have seen from the last 2 weeks has been, Ali, your amazing talent for your theories. Particularly your theories on Iron Flame. So do you want to talk a little bit about what has happened there?
Yes. So so I have posted probably like 8 or 9 theories, and people are loving them, which I'm just like shocked that people love them. Like, and I'm getting so many comments, and my favorite part is that I post the theory, I think I'm like pretty solid in my theory. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, this
yeah.
is a great idea.
Yeah,
I've
you're like, I've
considered every
nailed this,
angle.
guys. I
Yeah,
figured it out.
I'm like, I'm a genius. And then people come on, and they comment, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point, And so my theories are evolving, and I'm just loving this conversation and this dialogue in my comment section, because it's just giving me everything I want. with this book.
No,
I can
it's
just
amazing,
keep
isn't it?
thinking about
That
it.
connection to the Bookstagram community and the Iron Flame community is really what this, I know for me, that was what this was all about. And it's because
Yeah.
I'm so excited about these books. I have no one in my real life that reads these. Like, not a single person is
No
into
one.
the fantasy, romantasy books. So hence we connected, and then just connecting with everyone. It's just so nice to be able to flesh out these theories, bring up ideas, and and I just love what Rebecca Yarros has given us in leaving all these little Easter eggs and all these little ideas that we're all just brimming with theories and ideas about what this can be. And I think this is definitely Ali testament to that. You do have some really great ideas, which is what we're going to be discussing today, guys. We're going to
We're gonna
flesh
dive
these
into
out
them.
for you. But I'm definitely super proud of my girl Ali. I got one viral one. I did get one. My Violet
Oh, I'm so
viral.
sorry. I didn't know. Tell us all about it.
I got to, I think I'm at 27,500 views now for that one. So,
To me, like anything over 10,000 is viral. You
oh,
know, if you're out there being like, oh, 1 million is viral, don't talk to me. Anything over 10,000 is viral.
And generally anything of mine that's done half decently, which the best one was 10,000. It's like the most stupid 5-second reel. Like, I see a movie, it looks like Zayden, and I film it for 5 seconds, and then boom, that takes off. But nothing that's actually been one of my theories or ideas. So, but it's super exciting having everyone's comments and thoughts. And that is why we definitely need to bring these theories to our discussion and podcast today.
Yes.
So, without further ado, we're going to start with a little segment that we like to call, well, really about what we've been currently reading and what we're maybe looking forward to. So, Ali, tell me, what have you been reading?
This week I have found the best fantasy romance series. Like, it has cured my Iron Flame hangover, and I need all of you to go read it so I have more people to talk to, because I want to dive as deep into this one as I'm diving into Iron Flame. So it's the Kingdom of Lies series by Stasia Stark. Let me say that again. Stasia Stark. Hard to get that out. There's 3 books out right now. The third one just came out like November 17th. So it probably got really overshadowed by the Iron Flame release. I'm about halfway through the 3rd book right now, and it's so good. It's about Fae and mate, and there's a lot of politics, a lot of war. The spice is very good.
What level of spice are we talking?
So the first book I gave it like maybe 1. My chili pepper rating is 3 chili peppers is the most. So I don't go all the way to like 5 chili peppers. Right. So my first one was like 1.5 chili peppers. Okay. My second one was like 2, and like the third one right now, I'd be out of 3. I'm only halfway through, but we'll see what happens.
Building. So is there a bit of slow burn in this book?
The nice thing is, I feel like in books where they say that, the spice is going to build, that like that first book doesn't have a lot. And the good thing is that this first book really did. It had enough to hook you, and it had enough, romantic tension to really hook you as well. And you get more and more POVs as the series goes on. So really cannot recommend it enough. I've dabbled with some other things. I mean, I'm a really fast reader. But this is really what's taken my
I love it. So I need to read this next then. It sounds like this is a series that I maybe need to put at the top of my to be read pile.
Yeah, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. For those of you who subscribe, all 3 books are on there, so you can get it for free. And then if you're like me, once you read it on Kindle Unlimited and you like it, you go buy the hard copy.
To put up on your wall and look amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
What are you reading this week, Nicole?
Well, I'm normally a pretty fast reader, and I have been seriously going through Iron Flame for the 2nd time, and I've got to admit, it's been really slow. I've just getting through that first half was just a little bit of a struggle. The first time I read it, got it read in a couple of days. Obviously it's a big book, fair enough. But yeah, second time, I just have found it just very slow. But now I'm finally about 70% of the way through into the second part.
It's really pick up.
I think this is a little bit of some of the feedback we're seeing from, a lot of people on Bookstagram and the reviews just saying that this book, like Fourth Wing, I read 4 times. I read it 4 times. I never read a book 4 times, but I
It's
loved
like
it.
every single chapter, something is happening. There is action every single chapter.
And I get it. Like everything was new. It was like entering the world of Harry Potter. Like there was threshing, there was the parapet, there was like everything was new, and there was the the romance and the slow burn and the enemies to lovers with Xaden, which was amazing. There was just so much happening in that book, and everything was sharp. Everything was super sharp. Whereas Iron Flame, look, and fair enough, it's always going to be difficult to follow on from a book like that to then have to go into. We already knew about this world. We already knew about the Venom, and we knew about Basquiat and everything that was going on. So none of those things were a shock and surprise. And I think the first half, that's a lot of what it's about. And Varys just kind of annoyed me the whole time because he was just so evil. And I'm just like,
I agree.
Okay, but our evil character, yes, he's making Violet's life hell. And I just wanted to get into all the really good stuff. So,
and they were they were never together. It was like, and like with Varys, like keeping them from each other and then going like weeks without seeing each other. I'm right there with you. And then, he's writing the letters, but we didn't get to read those letters. So it was just, it slumped a little in the middle. And I know people have been talking about that, and I do agree with it. I just don't think Iron Flame is quite as good as Fourth Wing.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I adore this world. And I don't even mind. I can sit there and just be at War College doing mundane things, and I'm still living for it, and I'm still loving it. Like, especially first time around, I did not mind whatsoever, but it just meant I was a little bit slower second time through. But now that I'm getting into the last parts of the book, we're getting into the super exciting elements, and it's been really good because I'm picking up on all those Easter eggs, and I am really thoroughly reading it, because if I see a line and I think it's meaningful, I'm like reading it and rereading it and then thinking to myself, so what does that connect with? Would that be like, would that then mean this? And my brain's just exploding most of the time.
All over the place. Yeah. I'm going to go off our agenda for just a minute, because this have made me think of a couple things that I've been wrestling with and I want to ask you about.
Go for it.
There are 2 things that I've heard online, right, about Iron Flame. One I agree with and one I really strongly disagree with. So let me start with the one I agree with, which is, as we know, the book series has been picked up for a TV show. They announced that, they're starting all of the, there's a lot of processes to get something to production, but they're starting those processes. I've seen a lot of people online talk about how they feel like Iron Flame in particular is really written like a season of TV.
Yes.
And in some ways, I agree with that. And I want to get your thoughts, because I do feel like when you read a season of TV, when you watch a season of TV, sometimes you have like that mid-season slump, right? Where it's just like kind of slow because there's so much exposition that has to happen before they can really push you into the finale
100%.
arc. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts. Like, what do you think? Do you feel like it's written almost like TV episodes?
Well, it's very interesting, isn't it? And there's probably a good chance, because I think Rebecca Yarros, she outlined that she has known about this for quite some time, and she's been holding it. So there's probably a really good chance that when she started to write, she'd probably written Fourth Wing. They went, wow, this could potentially be a TV series. And then she has jumped into Iron Flame, potentially knowing there's going to be a TV series. And then having that in mind. And look, I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones. I was obsessed with Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome. Yeah. But that always had the mid-season slump. You always knew that by episode 4, 5, you were just going to have these really nuffy episodes that just had nothing in them. They'd be a bit dull and boring. They were just preparing us for the explosions that would happen in episodes 8, 9, 10. That is, look, I think that's part of the flavor of what they have to be. You have to have those ebbs and flows, because if you're constantly having those explosive moments, they're just not going to have the same impact.
And you
have those other parts.
You also can't, even if it's not a TV series, or even if that wasn't how she was thinking about it, not every book in a series can be that, boom, 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 boom. It makes sense that the first book is, because you got to build the world, you got to get people ready to go, but you do have to do exposition at some point. You have to drive the world forward. You have to lay the groundwork, and I think this book laid a lot of groundwork. I think it laid more groundwork than even we are catching on to.
Oh, so much. I think there's still so much that she is not telling us, which I like, even when I'm rereading the book and I'm trying to pick up on these theories and what they mean, and I'm honestly thinking she has not given us all of the information. She's given us little snippets here and there, but
Tiny,
I think she has kept
minuscule snippet is what I
exactly.
think it is. Yeah.
Exactly. You might get an inkling, but I think what they are is actually way bigger, and she has possibly not given us all the pieces. But yeah, no, in answer to your question, I think she has definitely had a TV series in mind when she was, I think, writing Iron Flame. And that might be part of the reason that some of the book is super explosive and other parts are a little bit quieter, because it is a little bit shaped in that way of a TV series.
In that way, yeah.
In saying that,
now,
I'm so excited for the TV series.
Oh,
like,
yes. Oh my God. I cannot wait. And it makes me so nervous because I want it to be good, but even if it's bad, I'll still watch it and love it, you know? So it's just exciting.
To me, the casting has to be on, look, let's just a few major things, right? Casting has to be on point. The writing has to be on point. Like, please write it well. Please write it well. And then
Rebecca Yarros has given you such a good script.
Exactly.
Like, you don't need to take the dialogue. Just keep the dialogue as it is, you know? Like, she did such a good job.
Yes. Actually, speaking of dialogue, one thing that people have spoken about with the TV series, and I'm really curious how they're going to do this, and this is about how they're going to do all the internal speaking scenes. Because as we know, typically on most TV shows, this just never looks good on camera. In a book, it's amazing, and you can totally work with it, and it's so great. But in an actual TV show or movie, when they're speaking mind to mind, how are they going to make that work?
I've had this same thought about the ACOTAR series, because the ACOTAR series is being developed into a TV show as well. And I've had the same thought, like, how are they going to do that? I don't know. I don't know how they solve it. I don't know if, like, maybe, you know, they have the actors like voiced over in like almost like a whispery or like a different kind of voice or something so that we can still hear it. If they take it out completely, I feel like it would be really hard to capture the relationship of Xaden and Violet without that. So I do not envy those writers at all that are trying to develop that at all.
I'm actually hoping that they actually make it a lot of actually real dialogue, because a lot of what they discuss, it's not necessarily where they have to speak mind to mind. They could very much just pull each other aside and kind of just be whispering to each other and be having that same dialogue. So I kind of hope that they do that, particularly with Violet and Xaden. Whereas I think when she's talking to Tarn and things, they're definitely going to have to do it in those moments. So I kind of hope they don't overuse it. They do it here and there, but when they can just be having a conversation, they actually just make it real conversation.
Yeah. I think in a future episode we're recording, we should fan cast Iron Flame.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes. So guys listening, stay tuned. I think we're going to do that. We are going to do
100%.
That,
I mean, what do you guys think? Have a vote. Do you want us to do fan cast of Fourth Wing?
Yeah. Amazing. And we can even have like, okay, here are like my top 5 for Xaden or something.
Oh, so good. So good.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad that we're going to do that. That's decided. We're going to fan cast.
Exactly.
Sure.
We're 100%. We're 100% going to do that. So
I know we're
theory.
Yes. My second question for you about Iron Flame, and then we can go into theories, which I know everyone's eager for, is, so I have also heard a lot of people talking online about how they think Iron Flame was written by AI, or parts of it were written by AI, and that it was rushed. And this is the one that I disagree so strongly with. Let it be known that our podcast, Alley Cats and Books and Book Loveaholic, do not agree.
No.
It is, even though it has lumps, and even though we agree that there are places where it could be tighter, maybe.
Yeah.
I do not believe that this was written by AI. I do not believe that you can capture that essence. But I wanted to get your thoughts and make sure you agree with me on that, because that is like a crazy thing that I've seen online.
I think that is the most ridiculous idea ever. Like, yeah, sure, AI can be great if you need to, like, you know, do a quick speech or talk at work or something like that, or a wedding speech or something. But a whole book, I'm sorry, but there is just no way. I'm sorry, but that is just insulting to Rebecca, who is amazing.
So insulting. And it's like the reasons I've seen, and I don't, maybe you haven't been seeing this, but I've been seeing it everywhere. People saying that about it. And I am just so offended, and I don't, none of their arguments make sense. You know, they talk about how there's poor quality grammar, and I very much disagree with
Look,
that. So
that has definitely been something that people have spoken about, and I do know what they're talking about, the sort of immaturity of the speaking and things like that. And look, for me personally, I've actually never minded it. I've always felt a little bit like that's their characters, they're dragon riders,
they're 20 years old.
Yes, and I've also...
What 20-year-old speaks perfectly, right? I mean, you know, in some ways that's...
Yeah. I mean, I do get that she's a scribe and she is meant to be pretty intelligent, and I wouldn't mind if sometimes it was just a little bit smarter. But I've always been on the theory that, you know, when you meet a really hot guy and there's crazy chemistry and then you just lose all your words, like you actually can't create a coherent, like, sentence.
Like
you
if I met Damon in real life, that's what would happen. Yeah.
That is what I think happens to Violet when she's around Xaden. Like, she's just like, oh my God, he is just crazy hot. And now I can't actually think what I was going to say. I'm normally an intelligent person, but around you, I have lost all my words and I cannot think of a single thing to say that actually sounds intelligent. So I've always found it really relatable. I found it very relatable, and it has not taken away from the sheer enjoyment of this book and this series. So,
and then, you know, the writing itself is approachable, and I think that's what also allows it to go so viral, and for all of us to have so much fun talking to people on the internet about it, is because so many different types of people from so many different walks of life, and who read lots of different types of books and maybe wouldn't necessarily read a fantasy book or wouldn't necessarily read a romance book, are loving this book because the writing is approachable. And sometimes that comes with a little bit of an immaturity in the writing, but also
it makes it really available to everyone. I've always, especially Fourth Wing, I just found it such an enjoyable read. Like, I just enjoyed it. The world she created, the characters. I'm extremely, when I love a book, I'm extremely forgiving of the writing. I'm suddenly like, I don't mind. It has to be pretty bad for me to say, oh, that didn't really work right there. I never had that moment in Fourth Wing or Iron Flame. I found it all super enjoyable. And as you say, it's approachable. It's approachable to everyone. And I think it's a great book to encourage non-readers to get into this world. Like my husband, he had never read any of my fantasy books, and I was able to say to him, I think you will enjoy this. It has action, it has dragons. You know, I think even though you don't read this, I think you'll enjoy it. So
the same with my husband. He never reads the books I like, and he loved Fourth Wing. He loved it. He's now reading Iron Flame. It's going slow, and that is killing me because I just want to talk to him. And I want him to appreciate my theories that I posted.
My theories. Come on.
Yeah, I want him to be like, oh my God, I'm married to the smartest woman on earth.
And I so want to get my husband to read like Sarah J. Maas and read, you know, ACOTAR and Throne of Glass. But when you try and explain it to them and you're like, oh, it's about fairies and they're in a land where there's like the spring court and the night court. And then you just realize how ridiculous.
There's this like 400-year-old history of this war. And then there was a wall that got taken down. And, you know, it's so much. And I do think that I love ACOTAR. Don't get me wrong. I am desperately hoping that Bookstagram turns into what it is right now around Iron Flame when CC3 comes out, and like people are just as excited to talk about it. But it is a little less approachable of a world, and than I think Fourth Wing is.
Yeah. So. All right, we have spent enough time talking about this. Let's get into the theories that we wanted to discuss today.
So like we need an audio or something where it's like theory time.
Theory time.
maybe next time.
Exactly, when we get our name, and then we're going to move on to our musical little interludes, and we'll have all that set up. Coming soon. We're going
to be professionals in no time.
Oh, totally. We're going to be giving up our day jobs, and this is going to be our full-time gig. We're going to love it.
I know. Well, I bought a microphone in order to be professional, and then I forgot to plug it in, so I'm recording without my microphone.
I have mine right here. I'm very excited. See, guys.
Ooh. So if you guys are hearing Nicole better than you're hearing me, it's because I bought a mic and I forgot to plug it in.
This is only our second podcast, guys, and really our first proper official one. So you're going to have to forgive us. We're going to get better with each and every podcast
we will get better.
That we do.
Absolutely.
All right, without further ado, let's jump into our Violet second signet theories.
Yes, there's so many. There's
Oh,
so many.
so many. All right,
So,
Ali, you had so much success with this week on your viral reel. So I'm going to let you take off and tell us all about your theory.
okay. So my theory on her second signet is that it's the ability to see through like perspective, like through people's eyes, right? So the reason I think that is I think that one, and most importantly, and this is what really led me to think of this, is the dream. I think that actually we all got so, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I read the ending and Xaden is the one who turned, I was so shocked and surprised because Violet was the one having the dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was actually Xaden having those dreams all along, and Violet, through her second signet, was seeing those dreams because she can kind of go into his mind, go into his perspective, and see what he sees. So I think that whole time she was seeing through his eyes. And what has been added to the theory through comments is in one of the dreams, the sage or whatever says, you're going to turn for love. And then we see that same sage saying those same words to Xaden later on, you're going to turn for love. I told you, the sage says, I told you you would turn for love. And he does. So I really, really think that Violet was not having those dreams that Xaden was. The second reason I think that is because of the throne room scene, which we all love. that scene. Yeah, that
Favorite
scene
scene.
is, yeah, I think that's what was happening when Violet kind of saw his perspective. Because, so many people initially were like, oh, that was Xaden flipping and showing his second signet to Violet of intention. But there's more going on that Violet is seeing than just intention. And even Xaden himself says that his signet on intentions doesn't really give him like thoughts. It just gives a feeling, right? He just feels what their intention is. Yeah. But Violet was getting his whole perspective, was getting his thoughts.
Another thing that's really interesting with this, right, is when we think about her first signet and when it kind of took off, it was also in some steamy scenes with Xaden, right? Like the first kiss was when the lightning happened. And so we have to wonder yet again, was she potentially slipping into her signet during one of those intense steamy scenes with Xaden?
With Xaden, right? Because we know that, like, Xaden, but also emotions, like strong emotions, is what helps her with her power. And she was having some strong emotions in the throne room, let me tell you.
that finger trick that Kat taught him, like, wow.
yeah, that would get some strong emotions and some signet power out of me. So, and then finally, in the final battle, she is able to see through Taryn's eyes to see what's going on with Xaden. And I personally don't remember them talking about dragons really being able to do that. Multiple people pointed out to me in the comments, which I so appreciate, that actually when she first gets her power and she gets her relic on her back, she's able to see through Andarna's eyes. Her back, and so they're like, oh, so that must not be her signet. And I'm like, but actually, what if it just was still her signet? Like, what if she was experiencing that in that moment? It's because I just, like, no other writer has talked about being able to see through the dragon's eyes. So I do think that that's a special capability.
Yeah, and I have to admit, that's always what my thoughts around this had always been, because there's been that four-way connection between the dragons and Violet and Xaden. I'd always thought that was just part of their connection, and that the dragons can choose to show through their eyes, and that's something that they just seem to be able to do. So I'd always just kind of palmed this idea off because of that, and kind of had explored into more other things of what the dreams might be, what Liam might be. But I have actually come up with a bit of a theory myself, which actually does sort of support this, looking through eyes. I think it's something bigger. I think this is a part of it, but I also think there's so much more to her signet. That's kind of my take, is I think that it's actually going to be huge and big and multifaceted. But something that I really want to talk about is Andarna. and how Andana spoke about when she hatched, because she was sitting unhatched for 600 years until she overheard that that a scribe had been born into a writer family with a scribe's mind. And I was like, why is this so important? Why is it so important that they had a scribe's mind?
Yeah. And she even heard, because I just actually reread that scene, she even heard them saying that Violet was like sort of supposed to be the future leader of the scribes. She heard the elders talking about how, you know, the new leader of the scribes was born. And that made her be like, okay, it's time to hatch.
Yeah. All right. So what I was wondering about this is whether there is like, so I guess there's two things it could potentially be. One is that it's actually that there's some kind of a prophecy that a writer with a scribe's mind potentially is going to come and overcome the venom, maybe lead the quadrant or something like that. So potentially some kind of prophecy. The other thing would be that Andana knows her own power. And she knows that she needs a scribe or a scribe's mind to activate that power, control that power, or potentially not turn that power evil. So I just feel like there has to be something about Andana's power that reason for Violet being a scribe's mind was actually so important. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I love that idea. And it's clearly so significant that Andarna really latched on to this idea that Violet was going to be a scribe or a writer with a scribe's mind. And Violet even says to Andarna in that scene, "You didn't know I was going to be a writer, huh?" And then Andarna was like, "I didn't." Ooh. ... You know, like something's there. Something's
the future.
There. I think supports the idea of a prophecy. I love a good prophecy.
Oh, love a good prophecy.
Because it really, you can theorize off a lot of things when you have a prophecy. But even if there's not a prophecy, I also just love the idea that something about Andarna, because I think we all agree she's super unique and she is going to be very unique and very important, but something about her power, how it would manifest in a signet, you need a scribe to control it or to harness it, or, you know, make sure that it's okay. I'm just like, I love that idea.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And I think when we think about like Tarn's power, like his is like the ultimate rider power, like lightning from the sky. It's sheer power and force. That's a real rider power. I like to think that potentially Andana's power is more of a scribe power. It's more of a mind, more of that intelligence that is which is really where your real inner strength comes from. And I like to think that Violet's second signet is going to fall more into that kind of power. And when I think about scribes and what would potentially be a power of a scribe, and I kind of think, well, when you're reading a book, you're always looking through the eyes of the writer that's writing the book. So going into your theory, that would somewhat support that idea that if there was kind of a power that was really around the scribes, it would potentially be able to see through someone else's mind, just like you would through a writer's mind when you're reading a book. So,
or you can see through their mind or see their perspective to better record what has happened, which is what the scribes are trying to do. Yes. Really, really like that idea. I think that there's a lot that, you know, we could play around with there.
Oh, 100%. And then yeah. I still think the dreams are super important. And right. And a few people have come back and they've said, oh no, but like Xaden has the dreams as well. And it's just coming from the venom. Like the sage is sending it to them. But then I'm like, what is the benefit of that to the venom? Like why, how does it benefit the sage for them to potentially see the future? Like, just to scare them? I don't think it has.
Right.
If anything,
and I don't know that I even buy that it's the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely don't think the dreams are just like dreams like of their fear manifesting. I think the sage is placing those dreams either in Xaden's mind and then Violet's accessing it, or into both of their minds, right? Whichever theory you think is right. But I do think that the sage is putting those dreams there.
Yes.
Why? Why is he doing it?
Yeah, exactly. and that's why I sometimes come to the idea that I actually feel like this might be part of Violet's signet, that she can. I just think it would be hugely impactful if she could potentially see the future or access the past. Like that would be a huge part. A bit similar to Melgren, where she can see potentially future events that are going to happen and the impact that would have on being able to then, help to, overcome the venom. And then there's the whole part of Liam and that whole torture scene.
The whole other thing about Liam. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like
we could talk for 5 hours about all the different.
We could, and we've got to keep it. We've got to try and stay on point and not get too sidetracked. But I think that's part of her signet as well. But I question: was she actually seeing Liam, or was she even potentially seeing herself? And I'm full on going Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure here. I'm like thinking if she was able to control the past and the future, and she knew that in that moment she could not give that information to Verish. If, say, Verish was potentially, I know in one of your theories you talk about that he might already be in connection with the venom. So she knew that she could not tell him that information, and she needed to keep herself in control in this time of great, stress. So she actually went back in time looking like Liam to try and stop herself and support herself to get through that time. I would love it to be Liam, though. I would much rather it be Liam because I love Liam and I want him. I want it to have.
I want it to be Liam too. I really do.
But I could also see how it could potentially be herself. And the way she kind of just talks about it, and she's like, or the way that Liam sort of says, I'm sort of a gift from Malik. And I don't know, the things that he says, it could be Liam, it could potentially, I don't know, even be Violet herself.
It could actually be a gift from Malik. I mean, like it really could be. The book hasn't really delved into the religion, right? Yes. There's only just a little bit. I feel like we've just scratched the surface there. And totally. I don't feel like Rebecca Yarros would create this whole like system of gods and like Malik without
multiple gods,
important, right? So it could be a gift from Malik. It could be exactly what Liam is saying that it is.
Yes.
I've seen the time travel theory for sure. I've seen, one of the things that really hiccups me, I guess, I don't know if that's the right word, but, is that in that moment, she doesn't actually have access to her power because she's taken the serum. Yes. That being said, I've also heard people saying, but who knows how Andarna's power works? And I totally agree
exactly.
with that.
Maybe Andarna's power is not actually affected because it's a power they've never experienced before.
So they haven't been able to study it. Who knows if that serum is effective on her power through Andarna? I've thought, I don't know if I believe this, it's just like a thought I had, that potentially Xaden, one of the other writers, has the ability to kind of like project themselves or something, and that's their second signet, and that maybe Xaden had somebody do that to just help her while he was trying to hunt things down to save her. But then I think, no, that version of Liam knew so much about their past.
There's
history,
so much detail there. There's so much detail. And I just can't help but believe that has to be significant. Her seeing Liam in that torture scene, it has to be significant. It can't just be a figment of her imagination.
No, I don't think it can just be a figment of her imagination.
No. I mean, I like to really believe it really was Liam. I really do, because he just gave so much detail, and he was so beautiful. He was so beautiful the way he was talking to her. Like, I was practically crying just because she was reconnecting with Liam again. It was just so beautiful. But I absolutely believe that he was in some way, shape, or form real in that scene, and he was really supporting her through that time. Whether that is her signet
or
something else. The gods, I completely agree with you. We don't know a lot about the gods and their impact. All we know is that Tarn has scoffed at it in the past. He's kind of said, I can't believe you believe in these ridiculous gods. So
and that the dragons have their own, he's kind of said, like, we don't worship them, but maybe they have their own set of gods or something like that. But again, yeah, I just don't think that those little details would get put there if they weren't going to get
Exactly,
developed in the
exactly.
future.
Or if there's just a greater power that we are not aware of that is in the realms of the gods and, say,
Right.
prophecies and that sort of thing, that is potentially overseeing this and is trying to help shape what this fate is going to look like, what this future is going to look like, and what events they need to get through in order to potentially have this epic final battle that we're potentially going to see in book 4 or 5. So
yeah, between, evil and good, and it,
oh, so much. My own theories, like as I said, I obviously started with this theory around really feeling the impact of her dreams and believing that it was actually similar to Melgren, that she could potentially see future events and may also be able to access past events. But say the more I thought about that, the more I discussed it with people on Bookstagram, and I did kind of jump into a little bit more of your theory about still being that aspect of being able to see the future and the past potentially, but also being able to see through other people's eyes, but potentially seeing through people's eyes in the now. And some people have even talked about wielding, about, I think they call it dark wielding, or where you could, from a close proximity, you might be able to jump into their mind and see through their eyes very currently. And then from a distance, you'll potentially be able to see into the future or into the past, and that sort of thing. So I think that that's really interesting as well.
Well, and if she could see the perspective of somebody in the past, she could learn how they defeated the Venin 650 years ago, and then we would be able to defeat them. So there's so much that she could do if that was if it did have some kind of connection to past and future. But even if it doesn't, I do still think that even just the ability to see into people's perspectives could also be really useful. Like, what if she could go see through the sage's perspective is something that I've thought about, or through one of the general's perspectives of the Venin. I mean, like, just kind of pop into their mind and see what they're seeing at that moment. And listen in, that
definitely. Look,
that
I
could
think
be massive.
And whatever it is, it's going to be in its infancy stage right now. It hasn't grown.
I think her first signet is in its infancy stage.
Exactly.
I think that it's not just lightning. I think it's just like pure power, because that's what Felix says to her. I think we've barely scratched the surface of the first one, much less the second one.
Exactly. And you spoke about that as well. And I think that is so accurate too, that her first power still has so much potential. Once she actually really starts to learn how to wield it properly, she might actually start to realize exactly what she can do. And then when we think about the two signets potentially blending together, what that could mean as well. Like,
oh my, I know.
Hence why I ended up getting so far that I went full Jennifer Armentrout, and I just started getting into the God theory. And I'm just like, oh my God, she's just got like the Malek signet. That's literally,
she's gonna be the new Malik.
everything. She's just gonna have everything, and that just answers so many of our questions. Look, as I said, I really do believe there's multifaceted. I think that there's potentially seeing through the eyes. There is potentially part of that could be seeing through somewhat of the future and the past, and whether she can connect to people that are potentially even dead. So it's super exciting. And as we've said, we could probably talk all day about it. So have you got a final opinion on this theory, where you're currently sitting with it right now? What do you believe Violet's second signet is?
Oh my gosh. So where I am still feeling very confident that her first signet is like more multifaceted than just lightning, right? That it is actually the ability to just wield power in and of itself. Where I'm sitting at with the second signet, oh my God, I don't even know how to answer that, because I do feel like you've been so persuasive. Some of the other things I've seen online have been persuasive. So it's so tough. But what I will say is, I think that the dreams are the manifestation that we're seeing of the second signet. However that plays out, right? Whether that is because of the past and the future seeing, whether that's because she can see perspectives, whether she can just dream walk, I don't know. But when Rebecca Yarros says we have seen the manifestation of the second signet, where I'm at right now and what I'm convinced, so I can change my mind later, is that is the dream. Yes. How we interpret that is up in the air for me still. What about you?
I say I am sitting in this space where I feel that her power is multifaceted and much larger than we think. I have come to agree with you that I think there is an element of it where she can see through other people's eyes. I think particularly that steamy throne scene and the fact that it really connects to the first book and the first time that she wields power. I think that is definitely part of it. I also love, a few people have spoken about, when I've spoken about her potential ability to see into the future in the past, that in the first book, Jack sort of makes fun of Violet because he talks about, oh, can you see the future? So it would be really nice to think that has come full circle, cool. And that she potentially does have some ability to do that. I think that this signet will need to be really, really important, and I think it will be larger than her first signet. Not in the way of that big brute power, but I think the meaningfulness of this power, what this power could create and be, I think that it will be huge. So I believe that it does potentially have the ability to see into the future and the past, an ability to connect to the dead and to see through other people's eyes. What exactly it is, I probably haven't nailed that yet. And I do not think that Rebecca has given us enough information to really figure it out. I think she is keeping
wants us all to do this, to pontificate nonstop about it.
She's keeping it to her chest.
Good book does.
Given us little Easter eggs, but not enough to fully realize what it is. But I 100% believe. Look, I just want it to be a signet where I go, oh my God.
Like, yeah. Like, I love that moment in Fourth Wing when she wields lightning and the chapter ends with Tairn just being like, lightning, you know, like he's screaming it and I can just hear his voice in my head, you know, and that's what I want. I want, like, and it's just so exciting. I'm like, boom, yeah, Violet.
Exactly. I just want to be shocked. I want to be surprised. I want to be like maybe a tiny bit right, but I want it to be so much bigger and more insane.
So much bigger than I could have ever imagined. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, I guess that. Oh cool. Yeah. She can, you know, yeah, she can wield, she can manifest. It's like she's a truth sayer. Like that's not big enough. That is not big enough for me. I need something big and massive and amazing.
All right. We've talked about a lot in this episode today. So there's still so many things that we intended to talk about in this episode that we didn't get to because
we got sidetracked. We got excited. What can we say? We love our theories.
Yes. So, you know, if you guys are not following either of us on Instagram, go do that. It's Alley Cats and Books and Book Loveaholic. Follow us on Instagram. Watch some of these other theory videos that we've mentioned, and keep listening, keep tuning in, because we have just begun to scratch the surface of what we can talk about with this book.
100%. We're so excited to be bringing you on this journey, and we love your comments. So please leave us comments, and we will sometimes, if they're, you know, we'll bring them to this podcast, or we love to get back to you as well. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to see you next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.